So it's almost as if we asked to quote different
So
things.
the carpentry is 13,700? That's what you're...
Yeah.
Have we dealt with all of the appropriate bonds?
He has, we have a contract in place currently with him. He's doing the work on the back wall of the building as well. Because this doesn't exceed the 25,000, all of that should be good. We've already got all his insurance information, already on file with the current open contract that we have.
I'll make a motion to award the interior carpentry bid to Molten Construction in the amount of $13,700, pending approval.
Review. Second.
Any discussion, any questions? Yes, Dan.
Now, is this windows and stuff into it, is this just, what does this consist of actually?
It is basically building the interior walls that need to be built, opening up some interior walls, putting in a couple interior doors, a pass-through window in the kitchen. It's moving and removing some exterior doors. There's a window that's got to get relocated. So just general interior carpentry.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Patrick?
Yes.
Virginia?
Yes.
And Julie?
Yes.
Anything else? Awesome.
All right, thank you guys.
Just make sure it doesn't start till you get Jeff's okay.
Okay.
Chief? You don't mind going early, Dave?
No, no, no. Good evening.
Hi there.
Hi. What do you want to start?
We have the Code Red update.
Okay, Code Red. Can I turn around and face it?
Sure.
We're going to, the Communication Center in the Police Department is going to institute what we call a Code Red notification system. The current 911 system, reverse 911 system, as you know, is defunct. It's not operational. It used to be run through the Sheriff's Department. And because so many people have opted out of their hardline phones and gone to cell phones and different types of vendors, 911, reverse 911 is pretty much defunct anyhow. It's only about 50%. So we have contracted with Code Red. Code Red has the capability of a hardline, cell line, and even a computer IP line, depending on what you want. The beauty of the Code Red system is my department, the dispatch center, the police chief, the fire chief, and the MEMA director have direct control over that system. We will authorize the launch of the messages. It won't be overused like perhaps the school system sometimes gets overused. It's only going to be for emergency, contact, information. It has geo-mapping on it, so if we have, I don't know, a major fire on South Road, we got South Road detoured, we can select the residents on South Road and just send out a call to South Road residents. We have a major water break like we did this summer, we can select the whole town and have that sent out. So it gives us a lot of different options. One of the biggest options is you can opt in or out of it yourself through the web page or through my department. If you don't want to be contacted by Code Red, you don't want to be bothered with it. I know some people have called me about that program in the past. We can take care of that for you ourselves. But we strongly suggest if you want to opt in that you check. You can go into their web page. We're going to give you all that information. We're going to post it on a town website. So you can go in there and you can see how to log into it and make sure your information is in there. You can put as many phone numbers as you want in there. You can put your hardline, you can put your cell line, you can put your husband's cell line in, you can put your sons and daughters' cell lines in, whatever you want, the information. If you don't want to do that because you don't use a computer and you're not comfortable, you call my department and we'll do it for you. So there's going to be a lot of options there. We have a press release that's going to go out. Hopefully the press will give us a little, I just handed it to them. And I have a page to send to the webmaster. We'll use it for different types of things. If we have a major crime or evacuation or like I said, it's an emergency contact system. It's not a messaging system because there's a band concert on the corner. It's not going to be used for that type of stuff, okay? The other option it does have is it has free text messaging. So those of you that are in the text messaging world, and being an older member of the police department, I've had to learn to text because we use it all the time. But we can create lists. So I have a list of, like, my dispatchers, my offices, the CERT team, fire department members, and we can even do town office, emergency call-out list, snow day call-out list, whatever you want. That can be launched through the dispatch center as long as we have the data to enter into it. We set up a page, and we have a lot of the information already in our system. So that, and that's free. That's part of the pre-service, so we can use that. And we use texting a lot. So in the police department, we use our cell phones more than we use our portable radios.
Not when they're driving though, right?
Not when they're driving. So that system will be up and running. We're going to do a test launch next week. So those of you that are in it and they have a pretty sizable database already will get a code red text message from me or the fire chief or the MEMA director. Probably the first one will be from me, and you'll hear my voice. And I'll tell you this is a test, just to make sure. And then that data, by sending that test out, it's going to tell us how much data is in the basement and how many people we're actually reaching. But we do urge you to go log in and check in to make sure you're in. Anybody have any questions on the cost?
When will this information be on the website?
I have it in my hand. I have it in my book, actually. To get it to the webmaster as soon as we can.
If you have like an answering machine on your home phone, will it put the message on the answering machine, or will it hang up?
I don't know that. I'll find that out for you. That's interesting. Yeah. I'm not sure of that, because sometimes they don't. You're right.
Yeah.
What cost, David?
The cost is about $5,000 a year. They prorated us for half a year, and next year we can get it through a grant. So the cost is, we wanted to get it up and running because we do not have a reverse 911 system. So between communications and my expense account, we're paying for 6 months of it, and next year I can get it all paid for through the grant.
Are we co-opting this with any other towns? Or is
We
this
are
just
co-oping with Phillips.
Phillips.
Phillips
Okay, well, that makes
has
sense.
given an assessment fee on the money. So the police and fire chiefs.
Because you dispatch them anyway, right?
Correct. Yes. We've looked at a lot of different systems. This is really, I can launch it from my cell phone from the street. So it's really pretty unique. So. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay.
And I have, that's a press release that's going on. Yep. And the next item on the agenda was to change an appointment. We had vacancy. We had Nicholas Opry leave our department 1st of December, and we have Robert Fagundes, who is one of our part-time officers, who is also full-time certified. He was kind of wishy-washy back and forth, but he's elected to accept the full-time position. And what I'm looking to do is just change his status from part-time to full-time. And that would run effective January 1st to June 31st, and he would be reappointed from that date.
I'll make a motion to appoint Robert Fagundes to full-time beginning January 1st to June 30th, 2013.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none. Pat?
Yes.
Virginia?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Any other questions for Chief?
On this, with the full-time appointment, I was looking back at some notes. Back in August, when we lost, I think, Timmy,
Yep.
you had Mr. Amadon at the time going through the training class?
He is 5 weeks to completion.
Okay. That was my question, how soon is he going to be done?
Yeah, he'll be done February 20th, I believe.
Okay.
And all of these positions already funded?
Yes, current budget. They're through vacancies.
I know
What
that's
happened
what you
what happened last year with the budget that we went through,
Yeah.
the junior guys, just to protect themselves, fired out applications, and we lost 2 very good guys because they were afraid of
I actually
being laid
saw
off.
Timmy Gardner last week, he had to come to our office.
Both good officers. But we picked up 2 good officers too, so that's,
Anything else for us?
I'm in good shape.
Any questions for the chief while he's here? Yes, not.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, you're 40 minutes early, Al, but you're up. This isn't a bad thing.
Because we know Will's gonna slow us down.
He didn't hear me. That's all right, Dave heard him. Hi there.
Howdy. I'm requesting that we attempt to file for another grant for the tomb restoration, as we have done 2 years ago. Last year, we weren't eligible to apply for the grant because we were still in the finishing stages of the previous grant. So we would like to move forward. I did attend a workshop with the Mass Historical Commission last week, and we are eligible, as I said, and we stand a pretty good chance of getting the grant because a lot of the communities are not able to do the matching fund. I have been talking with the CPA on whether we could possibly do it, and they said they want to make an attempt. The Cemetery Commission had a meeting Thursday night and approved spending $2,500 out of their expense account to get the ball rolling. That would be to hire the engineer that I have asked for you to approve tonight. So that's where the funding will come from for the first part of this project. The engineer that's on the paperwork is required in order to put the application in for the grant. We have to have an engineered specs and plan in place to attach to the application in order to move forward. So that's why I've only asked for that. And I would like to have that approved tonight so we can move forward with an application.
The $2,500 is what you have to.
Yeah, it's $2,500 that would come out of the cemetery side.
Oh.
It's coming down.
Here we go.
Proposal from tomb restoration, for tomb restorations from CME Associates. The commission approved at the monthly meeting to fund the engineering service of $2,500 to be expended from the cemetery expense account. Okay.
Move that we allow the $2,500 to be expended from the cemetery expense account for that purpose.
I will second that, and I just have a quick question.
Go ahead.
Do you know how much is in your cemetery expense account?
There's approximately $31,000 in there right now. I would also need the selectmen to enter into a contract with CME Associates for that service with the chair to sign.
Okay, I'll just amend the motion to include going into contract with CME Associates Incorporated with the chair to sign.
Okay, and then they're doing the engineering service for the restoration, and you're already in the grant, is that, or you're applying for the grant yourself?
Yes.
And these are the two pictures I see that we have here.
I included a few pictures just to give you the graphic idea of what type of work was done and would be done, although I have a copy of the application. It's only an inch thick, so I decided not to give you each a copy of the actual application.
Gee, thanks.
So you got a few pictures rather than all this space.
So, okay, we've had a motion, it's been seconded. Any questions? Yes.
Will we, as a town, have to match the grant? Is that what I heard you say?
It's a matching funds, and he's hoping to get it from the CPA, Community Preservation Act. Well,
It
it's
would
the
be
CPC.
historical preservation under the Community Preservation Act. Has to be approved by the Community Preservation Committee.
And
They
they go to
did
town
approve
meeting.
the first round of this
I was going to say, they've already
project,
approved your
so,
other
and they're
things, right?
informed, and likely, though they have not voted, they're likely to approve it.
And then it
So
goes to town meeting.
the State Historical Commission funds 50% of it, and the Community Preservation Act funds 50% of it, yes, if we voted at town meeting.
But even to be eligible to apply, you have to have the engineered drawings.
Right,
So
understood.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none. Julie?
Yes.
Virginia?
Yes.
And Tucker?
Yes. The only other thing, I'll just give you some information on this grant. I will be coming back several times for approvals on various phases. I'll just go one step at a time. Okay?
Yeah, no problem. Okay, well.
Well, I think we're
having me here this evening. If you will mind my indulgence here for at least 5 minutes, because I believe there's some people that are unaware of what we're talking about and the entire background. So I want to take about 5 minutes to bring everybody up to speed before we end up getting to the heart of the matter.
Sure.
The school closed on June 2011, and it's been empty for a year and a half. That's the East Templeton Elementary School. Decision to close that school happened somewhere in the October 2010 to January 2011 timeframe, and probably one of the things that the school committee looked at was that there was many maintenance problems with that building, along with other stuff. But what I did find out that they didn't really have the money per se to end up doing any major restorations, because their budget for repairs on an ongoing basis were only $7,500. In June to August timeframe, the advisory board did a number of things. We did our mission, vision, goals, etc. And one of the things that we did do is we ended up making some recommendations to the Board of Selectmen, which included doing the elementary school as far as CPA funding and also performance contracting. And that's what we had made recommendations at that particular time. The advisory board met with the Conservation Preservation Committee in August to identify what criteria on how to get the funding. Shortly thereafter, the advisory board, along with the Conservation Preservation people, met in September and October with the Templeton Historical Committee on the actual criteria for getting that on the historical. In October, the Historical Committee deemed the building culturally significant, and that gave us the opportunity then to start looking at CPA funds, because you would end up having to do one under one of the four. At that particular time, I brought that information probably right after they ended up voting, and that was in the October timeframe, to the Board of Selectmen, and I kind of ended up indicating at that particular time what the board wanted to do, and the board basically voted at that time 4 yeses for me to continue to look at the CPA and also on performance contracting. At every board meeting since that time, I come to the board and gave them the needed information as to what I was doing from time to time in providing getting estimates, etc., to provide repairs for the roof, which I found out that we could end up getting that cost under the building maintenance, since it is still under the town, and I found out from the coordinator that we did have a repair fund to end up doing that. So we ended up spending $161.14 on materials to end up getting that roof ready for the winter. We did have a leak. In addition to that, myself and one other individual donated, between time and material, approximately $250. That was to save the building through the entire winter, because if we had not done that, we would probably end up seeing structural damage to that building as we went through the winter. In fact, we did lose, as I indicated at one meeting, that we lost probably 8 or 10 one-by-one ceiling tiles in one of the rooms. That was basically to protect an asset, and I was really surprised, because as part of the application process, we have to know what the building is assessed for, etc. And the assessed value of just the building alone is $859,200. Where did I get this information? I got this from our assessor's office, and that was on one of their field reports as of December 4th, 2012. In addition, there's 2 parcels of land. One is 0.66 acres, and that's where the school sits, and that land is valued, that's $56,600, and the back lot of that particular parcel is a .6 acres, and that value is $31,800. So we have a total area of 1.26 acres, and in addition to all the buildings that I just mentioned in the land, there is additional sheds attached to that building that are worth $5,300. So we have a grand total of that building and land at $951,900. That's a significant asset for the community. Too bad we don't collect some tax money from it. Unfortunately, the school didn't pay us that. One of the other things that we ended up doing is we looked at accessibility to that building as part of the overall repairing of that building. Because let me just tell you the things that we're looking at as far as getting CPA money. The roof, which we have talked about in the past. The boiler system, all the windows and doors, insulation, and making it handicap accessible. Those are the major portions of what we're looking to end up doing in that building. As part of an overall study back in 2003, after digging through a lot of information, I found that the buildings that we would end up moving from in Baldwinsville, 3 Elm Street, 4 Elm Street, 2 School Street, are the buildings we might move people into this building and make it all one town hall. Had accessibility issues. 3 Elm Street, for us to get the compliance, would be $72,000. 2 School Street would be $313,000 plus. And 4 Elm Street would be $239,000 for a grand total of $624,000. Whereby the elementary school, to bring it into compliance, would only be $429,000. And those are in 2003 dollars. So you're actually looking at, in 2003 dollars, at an actual savings, if we all move it into one building and not have to take care of three buildings that we're in, is a savings of about $195,000.
Are you confident that there's enough space in there for all of the offices?
Would you like for me to talk about that? There is about 6,300 square feet of room on the first floor. That's office areas. That's not including the closets. There is another over 4,000 down in the basement. So there's roughly 10,600 square feet in that building. And I'm not talking about crawl spaces. I'm not talking about the boiler room, etc. These are finished areas that the school was using. So in retrospect, when you start looking at the entire building, it is a significant amount of area to move most of the offices in. And I say most because there may be only 1 or 2 offices. I don't look at moving such as the highway department or whatever. That doesn't make sense that they end up doing that.
Well, does that include the offices in this building we're in?
Yes, it does. It includes all the offices in this building and at least 2.5 of the other buildings. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Will, what were the addresses again? 4 Elm Street? That's the...
That's-
the MEMA, and then
Right.
3 is the
Because
fire station
you
across the
have
street.
you have an office area there also that we could
For-
consolidate.
3 would be town clerk's office.
Town clerk's office, all right, so the, all right. And then the School Street.
Now, looking at the overall cost of doing those buildings, let alone this building, we had plowing for all those buildings. That's a total of 3 buildings that we ended up having to do plowing. Whereby, if we consolidated, it would be only 1 building, cost savings to the community. I don't have a dollar figure because that's in the overall ice and snow budget, and I didn't want to take and end up trying to get to small amount of dollars. It could be, $5,000, $6,000, I don't know. I also found out that we have security systems in a number of the town buildings. This building already has a security system. We are paying for every one of those buildings well over $200. That's over $1,300 for security. Whereby if we moved everybody into one building, we'd probably end up with a savings of about $500 a year, just in the security system. Because, as I said, East Templeton is that much. We have old heating systems in 3 and 4 Elm Street, as well as 2 School Street, which we've talked about problems, especially over 2 School Street, that we've had to have a number of things done to that particular building. So as in rolling this all up, after the upgrades to East Templeton School, you'd have a new heating system, increased insulation, new roof, new windows and doors, handicap accessible to meet the minimum requirements for use of that building. And we would have a majority of our offices in that building. Well, that takes us filing an application for CPC. And as I indicated last month, it would be very nice, and they recommend having letters of support for us to do that, is to go ahead with the application, showing that this board, as well as any other board, supports us going ahead with that project and get CPC money. This is not tax money. This is money that they already have, and it's used for, in this particular case, it'd be used for historical.
Does this have to go before town meeting, before?
Yes, it will. The process for that is we fill out the application.
Going to the building.
Yeah.
Moving us to the building.
Moving us to the building? Somebody else's tax money.
I don't know, I'm just asking.
I'm not sure what your question is.
Do we have to go before town meeting to move to that office? To move to- I don't think so. We'll have to go
I'm just
before
asking
town
questions.
meeting to get the money.
Right.
Right.
Does that answer you?
Would-
The process,
Yeah, but before we go to town meeting, this is what I'm saying, are we putting the cart before the horse? Are we already asking for the money before we go
We
no.
have to.
and find out if?
Let me talk about the process now. That's a very good question. The process is that I've had to go out and get a number of estimates, and there's still estimates coming in. We met with the board earlier this month, and the deadline was actually the 15th. In talking with them, they've given us some leeway because you as a board had not met during that particular time frame, and it was impossible to get a letter out of you, and I knew we were going to speak to that, and we still had some estimates coming in. Once all these estimates are in, we have at least a budget to end up putting into the application. The advisory board at their last meeting has voted to go ahead with that application pending what the outcome of this meeting tonight. Once that application is done, it's submitted to the committee. They review that. If they end up, as a committee, the Conservation Preservation Committee, agree that that's a worthy project, they will end up writing an article which goes before the annual town meeting. At that particular time, when it comes to the annual town meeting, it's voted on. So that the citizens of this community have a large say-so, as they have in any funds that are expended from CPC. As you heard earlier about the tomb restoration, you probably know about the Grange Hall. Those are funds that had to go also through this process. We're not doing anything different than what they have. So now it comes up to the board to decide this evening if they're going to support number one. Number two is to take and end up writing a letter of support so that we have that and being able to provide that along with the application.
Dennis had a question.
What, 2 schools through the fire department, we'll have to still maintain that building, am I correct? the fire department's gonna...
I'm not making any judgments on whether they're going to end up having that building or not.
Well, the fire department's in there now.
On Two School Street is basically office areas that we're talking about, not the fire department. We're talking about the assessor's office. We're talking about the Board of Health, we're talking about the building, and we're talking about an office for the fire chief.
Right, well, my only question was, they have a heating problem there, and we understand that.
That's
But they
correct.
still have to fix that, whatever's done, because that is still gonna be used as the fire department. Am I correct?
There's some talk from the fire chief, when I had a brief discussion with him, that he would, if that was the case, and he was the only resident in that, he would change it into a fire complex, along with the emergency management, and I believe that he would probably go off and get funds the way he was talking, that would end up alleviating the problem as far as the town's concerned of having to take and maintain that. They would probably put a new boiler in.
Okay, my other question is on that elementary school on East Home, is there an exit for the cellar down there?
Yes, there is.
There is an exit there.
Yes, there is.
Okay,
It is a two-door exit.
okay, that's all.
Yep.
Thank you.
Is it possible to somehow make the lower floor handicapped accessible?
Yes, in fact, we have gotten a quote for handicap accessibility to the first floor, and on this Friday, I will be meeting with people that will end up looking at a lift to provide access to the bottom floors.
Yeah, because that's, the bottom floor is where the conference room will be,
Yeah.
Yeah.
from the walkthrough that you and I took.
Yes,
That's what it looks like.
that's
really the only place
well,
to do it.
that was the most logical. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no stake in the ground because we're looking at, and I've only brought to you, as I've told you in the past, only things that I have gotten to a point where I felt comfortable about saying to the board, this is where we are with this particular project. There's still some things that are still out there that I'm investigating to take and end up doing layouts for that building. That would probably be little or no cost is one option. So I don't know where we are. There was other options put down for other ways of getting that layout also.
When you're getting these quotes to do the work,
That's correct.
are they giving you specifics, say, as they're doing the floors or the roof, the windows or anything, and they find asbestos or any other things that are issues?
Okay, that's an excellent question. In a document that I found issued in 2003, the school did an assessment of all the school buildings. That assessment indicated in that document there's no asbestos in that school whatsoever.
At all?
At all. The other document that I have is when Royal Steam, who maintains that, or has maintained that boiler on a regular basis, came in and said there is no asbestos also. So, I mean, I'm not an asbestos, I have to take those two, and these are engineering firms, this is not just my recollection.
Okay. That's good to know, because you know that's been one of my pet peeves.
I know one of the other questions was brought up about the windows in PCBs.
Yeah.
If you look at that building, there is probably only one or two, if that many, windows that have not been replaced. Those windows are, the last update that I know that building had was in 1970. We're looking at energy compliance windows in today's standards, not in 1970. That means upgrading all those windows in that building, as well as all the entrance doors.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, actually. All this bidding that's going out, just want to make sure that it all gets done.
There's no bidding. This is all estimates at this time. The process is that when it's approved, it has to go out to bid.
Okay.
And it will be at
I just want
prevailing
to
wage.
make sure, include Jeff in that process, so we make sure we get all that done right. I'm not saying that you don't know how to do it, I'm just saying Jeff is the procurement person, so we have to.
Yep.
My other question is about CPC funds. My understanding is, and this is all very new to me, so my understanding is that it's free money until, or if we ever choose to sell or dispose of the building in
That's
some way, then we would have to give all that money back to the CPC.
That's correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I
But
understood
at the
that.
time that we would probably, if we were to sell that building, we would probably have some liquid assets then,
Right.
which could end up be turned over with it.
Right. So is there?
I mean, I look at this as a longer-term project than only 1 or 2 years. I'm looking at this as we're going to be in that building for some number of years, as was indicated at one of the selectmen's meetings earlier this year.
Is there a contract that we have to sign with CPC? Do we?
As the persons that are actually doing the application, they look for one person to be the project manager. And as such, that person has to interface with a liaison from the CPC. I don't see, I mean, I know we had a discussion about this, you and I. I don't see members of the board wanting to take in, for the Board of Selectmen, want to take on project manager issues.
No, I'm not looking to take that away from you.
No.
You're doing a great job at that. I'm looking for the fact is if it's a contract, then
It's not a contract.
we have to
It's
sign
an
that.
application.
That's what I'm asking you. Is there a contract associated with it?
No, to get CPC funds, it's an application process.
Okay.
It is a contract.
I have just one more question. Now, all the rumors have been, for even when the school, they had fans, they said there was, air quality was terrible in that building, and there was some mold. Do you have anything about that?
Well, the mold earlier this year was abated. That was down in the basement, and that was because 2 things. We don't have a gutter system. This is probably one of the only, I mean, every time I have a vendor come in that was looking at the roof, they could not believe that we still had wooden gutters on a building at this day and age. Why the school committee and the school board and whoever did not put on gutters, I could not answer that question for you. Why they didn't do that. That in itself caused an issue. When you have water running off on the side of the building and it's not drained away, it will run up against the concrete. When you close up a building, where's that moisture going to go? You know it's going to go through the concrete.
This is when our school was operating, I heard.
When it operated?
Yes, they had fans, I heard they used to have to have fans running down the cellar.
No, the only fans that I see in
They had
that,
moisture down
in
there.
that entire building is fans for heat.
Yeah.
There is a heating unit in the large room, as the chairman can attest to, that was used to heat 2 actual offices that they made from, believe it or not, that school, and when it was first built, had a stage. And those kids used to take it, end up having plays, etc. I understand that the Mr. and Mrs. clubs also met in there, and they had plays or whatever, and the scouts met or whatever in that building. So when they ended up closing off that stage, they made 2 offices. And Chris got to see that firsthand when he walked through the building. So that's basically how the historic committee looked at that building and said it is culturally significant because the amount of students that have gone through and the amount of activity, especially during the last, the 20th century, so to speak.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for this project. I just, because I've heard, like I said, that there was, in the past, there was mold and the air quality was, am I right?
3 of my kids got asthma from that school.
Well, I brought in an air quality person, and based upon her initial assessment and her background, because she worked for the state, it's not possible for you to end up getting that type of things from the air quality in that building. You can end up having mold because now we've had leaks.
Yeah.
Because one of her first things that she said is that where it leaked in the roof, And I totally, by the way, I totally agreed with her, because that was part of what we talked with the insulation contract. Is all the insulation where it got wet has to be removed. Everything that got wet in different spots where the insulation is, including the ceiling tiles, which you had tiles, the ceilings were all lowered in that building. You have suspended ceilings in all but 2 rooms, would have to be removed to make sure that we had no mold growth. And they basically have given us a thing that they will come in and do the testing for that as part of the estimate. I mean, I do listen to inputs that I have. I don't necessarily agree with them, but I do listen to the input, and I want to take and dispel a lot of the things that are out there that people end up thinking that are in that building, such as the asbestos and the mold. It's been remediated. She would end up, if there was any mold in there, that would be a separate contract that they would end up going in and remediating.
Well, it's been 8 years.
And this is a professional company that's doing this.
That's right.
I have only
Go ahead.
one more question, and then I'll leave you alone.
Yes.
Assuming that this all goes through town meeting okay and everything, when do you anticipate enough of this work being done so that we could actually be moving it to there?
I wish we could do it tomorrow.
I know, but to be
Because
patient.
we're gonna have to stand
Being
out.
really aggressive, okay?
We don't want to move in too fast because, you know.
Really aggressive, okay? And in fact, I had to be reminded by the advisory board when I did talk to them about this. And I says, I wish I could have gotten estimates a lot quicker. And I was told by them that you've got a lot done in a short period of time.
And they're right.
And I guess I had to agree with them after I got done. But I mean, that's my nature. If I'm gonna go into a project, it's gonna be full steam ahead. I anticipate that if everything were to go well at the town meeting in May, that we could probably start the bidding process. Unfortunately, you know and I know that the bidding process takes a couple of months.
Yes.
I would hope that the first thing that we would end up doing is getting a roof on that building. That's number one.
Yep.
You want to protect an asset that you've got that's $859,000. Because everybody that has gone into that building, whether it's been a vendor or people just coming in as volunteers or people that just stopping, in fact, we've had people stop in while we're in the building doing work as volunteers and said, my God, of course they have gone to that school a number of years ago, and they said, I can't believe how good the construction is. This building, as I told you before, construction-wise, the building is in very sound condition. It needs some tender loving care cosmetically.
Yep.
I mean, that's really...
I lied, I have one more question. If the CPC thing falls through,
Yeah.
and I don't anticipate that to happen from the conversations we've had before
It
this,
sounds like they are on board.
do we have a backup plan?
Yes.
Thank you.
I love that.
All right.
Because you're going to be talking later on in your agenda about performance contracting.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've been concentrating more on the CPC portion of it
Absolutely.
to get that going, because I knew that there was a time frame. Last week, I contacted performance contracting representative Leo McNeil. He and I spoke at some length about the process that they would do. In fact, I'm very happy when I talked with him, because he said, not only could you do CPC, he says, we could do stuff in conjunction with CPC.
That might happen too. Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know what he meant by that. It would probably be a longer time frame if we went that route, unfortunately. But there's probably some things that we could probably do with that building at some other time.
Yep.
In fact, his recommendation, believe it or not, was not to look at performance contracting at this building, at every town building we have. Fire stations in both precincts, as well as any other building, highway department, etc. I mean, he pointed that out and would make recommendations. I mean, as you saw, I've gone back to documentation that was done in the community some time back to glean some information to help with this project. Like the fact that the school had something done as to looking at all their schools. The town looked at all their buildings for accessibility. We have accessibility issues in a lot of our buildings, and this would solve some of them by getting out of some of those buildings.
Rent-free.
All right, well, I would like to make a motion to endorse the, oh, I'm sorry, you want to?
It's all right.
Go for it, I don't care.
Don't fight about it, ladies.
No, I was just gonna do it because we've had so many conversations about it.
No, it's all right, go ahead.
I would like to move that the Board of Selectmen gives a letter of support for Mr. Spring to move forward to seek funds from the CPC to renovate the East Templeton School building.
And I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion from the board? Any questions from the audience?
Can I make a statement?
Yes, you may.
I just think Mr. Spring should be commended for all his
I'm
work
working
he's
on
done.
that.
But also, I mean, look at him. He's done the research on the mold, he's done all of that, and he's just dug and dug and dug, and I just think he needs to be commended.
Well, that's not what I did it for.
We know that.
As I said in a couple of meetings to a number of the select boards, when I came on board, I am committed to this community that they can end up doing some things to help the community out. And hopefully that doing this will help the community out.
And reverse the wrongdoing.
Now, do you want the whole board to sign the letter? You think that would be better?
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, so the motion's been made to have the board send a letter of support. Any other questions? Seeing none. Pat?
Yes.
Virginia?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Okay. So as soon as they can get it typed up, they'll let us know, we'll get it all signed for you.
Thank you. And we'll proceed with this to the CPC committee, because we have an application that we have now got to fill out in its entirety.
Because that was a.
The board never asked me how much money.
Well, we've talked about it several times, and I just assume
Right now,
nothing big
it
has
stands
changed.
for just the things that I talked about.
Yeah.
We're talking about $500,000 to $550,000.
Yeah.
Because just the windows and doors alone,
Actually, I think.
yeah, to replace them, just in one estimate that I received, was $70,000 to $80,000.
Just for the windows and doors.
Right, and this is energy compliant.
The handicap accessible, will that include the 2 new bathrooms?
It will only include one bathroom. We're looking at unisex bathroom. Pardon me?
Will I have to share?
So put the seat
The
up.
handicap.
It'd be a handicap bathroom. Believe it or not, there is 3 bathrooms in that building.
I know there's one on,
There's also one that the staff had also, the teachers.
in the little teacher's room.
Yeah.
There's nothing downstairs.
No.
You know which one to go into.
Thank you,
It's
Will.
been many years since I was there.
Tell them, Paul.
Okay. Thank you, Will.
You're welcome.
Old business. Jeff, you have a few things you want to...
I wanted to draw the board's attention to, and you have in your packet, this information piece we got from the 250th committee. They have closed out their activities, and they made a number of very generous donations across the town. And I just wanted to let you and the public know that we're grateful for the work that they did and for the donations that they've made. All very worthy town-related organizations that they've supported. So we wanted to thank them for their work and for their final report. The second thing was the success we had in auctioning off the bucket truck that was surplused by the highway department. It had been gifted to them by municipal light. And I'm bragging about this because it was our first effort at bidding online. You may recall that the highway director wanted to sell this very well-used piece of equipment, a 1986 GMC bucket truck, for $1,200. In fact, he even mentioned giving it to another town as a trade in favor, and I said, wait, there is this organization known as Municipid. Some 82 or 83 cities and towns in Massachusetts participate, along with other communities across New England. We put the truck up on Municipid. We closed the bid on the 20th of December. The winning bidder, who I spoke to today, was one Stephen Bryce of Bryce Excavating in Reading, Pennsylvania. We've made arrangements for him to come and pick up the truck. We have already received and deposited a check for $3,050. It really is that easy. Of course, you can learn these things from your kids. The internet allows you to make a much larger market, and this cost us nothing because the buyer assumes all the costs. The use of Municipid and this website costs the town zip, nothing. It's actually easier because it's all done electronically, and then I got a check overnighted and they're coming to pick it up. So the last thing I wanted to report was, as you know, we asked for 2 special petitions with the state legislature. I've reported in the past that there were enactments. I just wanted for the record to point you at Chapter 344 of the Acts of the Commonwealth 2012 and Chapter 367 of the Acts of the Commonwealth 2012. Signed copies by Deval Patrick here in my hands. The first one endorses and approves the special election which occurred on February 6, 2012. So that matter is closed. It's fully compliant with law. The second one, in fact, reduces the number of citizen petitions required by town meeting for a citizen's petition from 100 back to the number 10. So you now need 10 citizens' signatures to bring any petition to annual town meeting. You still need 100 signatures to bring a special petition to special town meeting. So that matter is now fully concluded. We've also filed for 2 bills in the coming legislative session. They will be introduced on January 18th. One is for a special liquor license, and one is for a citizen's petition to have an investigation by the Attorney General of the Commonwealth of various activities here in Templeton. Those 2 will be filed on January 18th that they'll file. That's all I have.
Anybody else with old business? Yes.
Are we having any luck selling 252 Baldwinville Road?
Jeff, I believe, has gotten on
that. The question is merely putting it up at auction. We're looking into, it is available, it will be auctioned shortly. The only question is which vehicle will we use to auction. You can't use a website to auction a piece of property, regrettably. But the question is whether we're going to do a sealed bid or have someone stand out there and do an on-the-street auction.
I got a fellow from Guyana that's real interested in it. He's going to come down here maybe next week, during the week, and speak with you.
Absolutely. Send anybody who's interested to my attention here at Town Hall. It's quite likely what we will do. I also need to get some approval from the state because it's a Chapter 30B requirement, but it's pretty straightforward. You do it just like you do a surplus bid. It would be a sealed bid, advertised in the Gardner News, advertised wherever we can advertise it, and a date certain. You put a sealed bid to my attention here. We have a bid opening, and it just like we did for the the Back Bay project. I won't guarantee it, but I'm 95% sure that's the road we're going to go down, and very shortly.
Well,
yep. One of the things that I did talk at some earlier meetings were the fact that some of the stuff that we are storing in 690 here, such as desks, etc., got moved over to the East Hempland School for storage, and we'll end up getting those ready for other departments to take and end up for sale or bidding process, and then eventually some of it will be scrapped. In opening that room up, it gives us, because of some of our financial issues that we're coming across, And in fact, I think you were talking about one earlier, is that the fact that we had to come up with $27,500 for the veterans, as well as some money because we had put it on the budget and it shouldn't have gone $163,000. We have an opportunity to take and end up moving some of the documentation in that room to East Templeton. There is a secure room there. It has a security system attached to it. It can be locked. These would be records that I don't see us having a big problem with that, but there's some records that would have to be maintained here, and I'm not looking to take it and end up saying that we should move that. It gives us an opportunity to start closing those buildings and save on heating fuel, etc. Because if you get out of any one of those buildings that I had mentioned, just a couple of those offices, it gives us savings immediately, which we could end up using this year, let alone at some time in the future. I mean, and I think the board should consider that as one of the things in going forward. I've made that available to you know, Jeff and I have talked about that. We have done some things already. It's up to the board to decide which, if any, of the ones that they want offices to be moved over. I recommend that you end up looking at those offices and truly this year to save on some fuel costs. We're paying electricity that's here or there, it doesn't make any difference, but where they would get, as you said, free heat. And by closing that one of those buildings down, there's at least 2 offices I can think of at 3 Elms that could move over here very easily, and they would have plenty of room. And it could be, one of them could be conjoined with one of the offices that we now have, and it might be a savings that we could look at by eliminating a part-time position that is only a minimum amount of hours. So I recommend that the board consider that.
Can we hear Sue's response to that?
I'm sorry?
Is just talking about the possibility of, now that we've got some extra where we moved out storage
Right.
things from here, possibility of taking the offices from your building and moving them up here.
She wasn't talking about
He wasn't
that.
talking about my building, me,
No.
my office.
Town
She's
clerk.
too school.
Town clerk and also
I'm sorry, I got the
conservation.
wrong address.
Elm
Wrong
Street.
address.
Elm Street, not school.
Wrong address.
That closed down one building.
I'm sorry.
But I do have an opinion. No, I mean, can I think there's Carol Harris is safe.
That's
Has
what I,
anybody taken into consideration about that?
yeah, I've talked at great length about that.
Okay.
There
That's
is-
the only issue with that.
One of the things that Virginia did bring up at one of our advisory board meetings is that she thought there was a state law that said that the records had to be in close proximity to the town clerk. In discussions with, I actually called up the Secretary of State's office and also looked at the record retention document, and under the town clerk's office, it says that the records have to be maintained and available so that the records can be accessed at some particular time. It does not say that they have to be in close proximity. I talked to one individual in the office, and they were not aware of any requirements such as that. I talked to an individual that was a circuit rider for the auditor's office, and he had gone to a number of town clerk offices, and a lot of the town clerks didn't have their records right there. So it's available to us to move that individual. Minimum amount of records have to be moved over here and could be, you know, put in a safe that we have right here, and get out of that building and still maintain all those records that are over there until they're moved, till their final place over in East Templeton.
I would hate to have to see Carol running back and forth every day to, you know, to use the safe or, you know, whatever she had to do. That's all. That would turn out to be a bigger problem for her than.
Well, one of the things that I look